Your phone buzzes.
47 likes in 11 minutes. You did not even post anything special. For 1 second, something strange happens. You feel lighter, bigger, untouchable. Most people prepare for failure. Almost nobody prepares for success, and that is dangerous, because the most dangerous moment in your life is not always the moment everything falls apart. Sometimes it is the moment everything goes right. Rome understood this, and what they built to protect a man from his own best day was almost cruel. After a major military victory, Rome held a triumph. The general entered the city in a chariot. Crowds filled the streets. Soldiers marched behind him. The people shouted his name as if he were more than human. For one day, he was treated almost like a god. But in the same chariot, standing just behind him, there was another figure, a slave. His job was not to celebrate. His job was to ruin the illusion. Again and again, while the city screamed, he whispered a reminder into the general's ear. Respice poste, hominem te esse memento. Look behind you. Remember, you are only a man. At the absolute peak of power, in front of the entire city, Rome placed someone at the winner's shoulder to remind him that applause had not made him immortal. But before this becomes another simple quote about humility, there is one detail almost every retelling gets wrong.
We should be careful here.
This custom comes down to us mostly through later sources, especially Tertullian, a Christian writer working more than a century after the early imperial period. We do not know with certainty that every victorious general had this exact slave, saying this exact sentence in this exact way. But the reason the story survived is more important than the technical uncertainty. Because true or partly ritualized, literal or sharpened by memory, the image reveals something Rome understood very well. Success does something dangerous to the human mind. Not because success makes you happy, because success can quietly change your relationship with reality. At first, success makes you grateful. Then it makes you feel chosen. Then, if nobody interrupts the feeling, it starts whispering something darker. Maybe the rules are for other people. Maybe normal limits do not apply to you anymore. Maybe the crowd is not just cheering what you did. Maybe the crowd is telling you what you are. That is where the mind begins to bend. Pride rarely arrives shouting. It arrives sounding exactly like certainty. And that is the exact moment your mind starts lying to you. You know this feeling in smaller ways. Friday, you feel unstoppable. By Tuesday, you are questioning everything you built. One message makes you feel brilliant. One silence makes you feel invisible. One win convinces you that you have finally become the person you always wanted to be. Then one ordinary day erases the whole illusion. This is the emotional gap Rome was trying to manage. The danger of success is not that it lifts you. The danger is that it lifts you so fast you forget gravity still exists. Rome had seen what happens when nobody is allowed to correct the powerful. Ancient sources are not neutral, and some details are debated. But the pattern they preserve is hard to ignore. Power does not usually destroy a man by making him evil overnight. It destroys him by slowly removing the people allowed to tell him the truth. Caligula was remembered as a man who blurred the line between ruler and god. Nero became a symbol of artistic vanity, paranoia, and cruelty. Domitian was accused of demanding language that treated him like something more than human. Different men, different reigns, different sources, but the same psychological danger appears again and again. The higher a person rises, the fewer people remain close enough to correct him. And once correction disappears, delusion stops feeling like delusion. It starts feeling like identity. That is why the slave in the chariot matters. He was there to interrupt the spell, not to humiliate the general. This is where most people misunderstand memento mori. It was not a death obsession, it was an anti-delusion system. The point was not that you will die, so nothing matters. The point was that you will die, so stop acting like applause has made you exempt from reality. Remember, you are only a man, not a god, not a permanent exception, not the center of the world. A man. The exact same kind of mortal creature as the soldier walking behind you, the enemy you defeated, and the stable boy cleaning the street after the parade ends. Death is only one detail inside that sentence. The deeper message is equality. Nothing about your greatest victory makes you more human than anyone else. And nothing about their lowest moment makes them less human than you.
Stoics turned this into a discipline.
Memento mori. Remember you will die. Not to become gloomy, not to reject joy. The purpose was the opposite. Death, remembered correctly, makes life sharper. A stupid argument loses some of its weight. A traffic jam stops being a personal attack from the universe. A compliment becomes something you can enjoy without needing to worship it. A win becomes something you can hold without letting it rewrite who you are. Seneca put the idea in a brutal way. We do not lose life all at once. We lose it day by day. Youth leaves first. Then yesterday. Then the ordinary morning you barely noticed. Death is not only a future event, it is already happening quietly, one ordinary day at a time. And if that sounds dark, look closer. It tries to stop the self from becoming too large, not to make life feel smaller.
One of the clearest surviving examples Rome left us is Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the known world. He could have used power the way many rulers did, as proof that he was different, as proof that the ordinary rules of pain, aging, fear, and death belonged to everyone else. But his private notes suggest the opposite. Again and again, he returned to the same discipline. You are mortal. You are temporary. You are one human being among human beings. The notes we now call meditations were not written as a book for the public. They were private corrections, a ruler talking himself down from the height of his own position. Not because he was weak, because he understood what height does to the mind. He even kept lists for the hardest days. Names of emperors, courtiers, famous men, people once surrounded by attention, pressure, envy, luxury, and fear. Where are they now? Dust, silence, names in books most people never open. He did this to recalibrate, not to depress himself. Every age produces people who believe their moment will be the one that lasts. Every age proves them wrong. The crowd always moves on. The title always passes. The applause always fades. So the question is not whether your best day will end. It will. The real question is whether you will let your best day turn you into someone who cannot survive ordinary days anymore. Pause here,
Because this is the part that matters most. The Roman slave was not trying to make the general less successful. He was trying to make the success survivable. That is the difference most people miss. Humility is not pretending your win is small. Humility is refusing to let the win make everyone else small. You can enjoy the applause, you can accept the promotion, you can celebrate the victory, you can smile when the phone buzzes. But you cannot let one good moment convince you that reality has changed its rules for you. Because the fall usually begins there. Not when people hate you, when too many people admire you. And nobody close enough is willing to whisper the truth.
Near the end of his life, Marcus Aurelius was far from the comfort of Rome. Ancient accounts place his final days on the northern frontier. Around the military world, he had spent so much of his reign defending. He was not dying in the middle of a parade. There was no cheering crowd, no golden chariot, no city shouting his name. Only illness, soldiers, uncertainty, and the same end every human being eventually faces. According to later tradition, those around him grieved, and Marcus met death with the kind of calm that does not appear suddenly. That kind of calm is built, repeated, practiced. He had spent years reminding himself that death was not an exception, not a scandal, not an insult. Just the common law of everything that lives. So when the final moment came, he was not being asked to believe something new. He was being asked to live something he had already rehearsed 1,000 times in private. That is the real discipline. You do not become steady in the critical moment. You become steady on ordinary nights when nobody is watching, when nothing dramatic is happening, when you could easily skip the reflection, when you could let the compliment inflate you, when you could let the criticism destroy you, when you could let the win become a drug. Rome's ritual was not about death. It was about mental protection. The slave was not standing there because the general was weak. He was standing there because every human mind breaks in a predictable way at a certain height. At the top, the air gets thin, the crowd gets loud, the self gets large, and unless something interrupts the illusion, the winner begins to confuse celebration with truth. Rome was not only protecting the empire, it was protecting one man from the psychological danger of being worshipped for a day. You do not need a slave in a chariot. You need a private correction. The next time your phone buzzes past 47 likes, pause before you check again. The next time someone praises you, pause before you build an identity out of it. The next time you win something, do not shrink the win, and do not pretend it means nothing. Write down exactly what you won. Then underneath it, write one sentence. Remember, I am still human. That is enough. Not because the sentence is magic, because it puts one honest thought between you and the illusion. You are allowed to enjoy your best day. You are allowed to feel proud. You are allowed to celebrate. Just do not let celebration become evidence that you are above correction. The real test of character is not only how you handle failure, it is how quickly you return to reality after success. Failure tells you that you are human by force. Success requires you to remember it voluntarily. That is why Rome placed a whisper behind the roar. That is why the slave mattered more than the crowd. And that is why the sentence still works. Remember, I am still human. Not to ruin the win, to protect it. Because the goal is not to ruin your best day. The goal is to make sure your best day does not ruin you. What would you have to admit about yourself after your next win? Write that in the comments. And if someone you know just won something big, send this before you congratulate them.